"Your house smells like ink and old paper. I can't bring clients here." Those were the exact words my nephew spoke to me, standing in my driveway on a cold November evening, his Mercedes idling behind him like a getaway car. He wouldn't even come inside. I'd raised Marcus since he was 8 years old. His parents, my brother Michael and his wife Sarah, died in a car accident on Interstate 70 during a snowstorm. I was 32, unmarried, running a small printing shop in Cedar Falls, Missouri. Population 4,200. I became a father overnight to a grief-stricken boy who'd lost everything. I did my best. We lived in a modest 2-bedroom house on Maple Street, the kind of house with creaking floors and a front porch that needed painting every few years. I drove a 1,998 Ford F-150, rusty around the wheel wells but reliable. Every morning at 5:30, I'd be at the shop, setting up the old offset press, the smell of ink and paper becoming as familiar as breathing. Marcus was bright, brilliant, actually. I made sure he had everything he needed for school, even when it meant skipping maintenance on the truck or eating less myself. When he got accepted to Northwestern University, I was the proudest man alive. I took out loans, worked 16-hour days, did rush jobs on weekends. Whatever it took. He graduated with honors, got hired at a prestigious consulting firm in Chicago. At 24, he was making more money than I'd ever seen. At 26, he made partner. At 28, he started his own firm. And somewhere along the way, I became an embarrassment. It started small. He stopped mentioning me to his colleagues. When I visited Chicago for his birthday, he met me at a diner 3 blocks from his downtown office, instead of inviting me up. His phone calls became shorter, less frequent, always rushed. "I'm in a meeting, Uncle Frank. Can I call you back?" He never did. Then came the excuses. He couldn't make Thanksgiving because of a client emergency. Christmas was just too hectic this year. My birthday passed without a call, just a generic card signed by his assistant. The final straw came last spring. Marcus got engaged to Vanessa, daughter of a tech billionaire. The wedding was planned for the Drake Hotel in Chicago. 300 guests, orchestra, the works. I was invited, but Marcus called me 2 weeks before. "Look, Uncle Frank, about the wedding." His voice had that careful tone, like he was negotiating with a difficult client. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to understand this isn't personal." "What is it?" "Could you maybe not mention the printing shop? If people ask what you do, could you just say you're retired, and maybe rent a decent suit instead of buying one from JCPenney?" I felt something crack inside my chest. "You're ashamed of me." "That's not," he sighed, the sound of expensive patience wearing thin. "It's complicated. Vanessa's family, they're used to a certain level. And you showing up in your truck, telling everyone about your little print shop, talking about ink and paper stock, it doesn't fit. I raised you, Marcus. And I'm grateful. I really am. But this is my life now. These are my people. Can't you try to fit in, just once?" I went to the wedding. I rented a tuxedo. I parked my truck 3 blocks away and walked. I sat at a table in the back, near the kitchen doors, with Marcus's college roommate's divorced parents and someone's elderly aunt who kept asking me who I was. When Marcus gave his speech thanking everyone who'd helped him get where he was, he mentioned his mentors at Northwestern, his first boss, Vanessa's father, for showing him what success really looks like. He never mentioned me. I left before the cake was cut. No one noticed. After that, Marcus stopped calling entirely. I'd call him, leave messages. "Just wanted to hear your voice, son. Hope you're doing well." Delete. "Saw something that reminded me of you today." Delete. "Your birthday's coming up. Maybe we could grab dinner?" Delete. 6 months of silence. Then 8. Then a year. I kept working. The print shop had been my life for 30 years. After all, every morning, I'd flip the sign to open, smell the familiar scent of ink and paper, and lose myself in the work. Business cards for the local real estate office, flyers for the high school football games, wedding invitations for the Johnson girl. Simple work, honest work. What Marcus didn't know, what nobody in Cedar Falls knew, was that the little print shop on Main Street was just the flagship, the original. I'd started buying struggling print shops during the recession, when everyone said print was dead. Picked them up for pennies on the dollar, modernized them, built them up, turned them profitable. Dallas, Phoenix, Seattle, Portland, 14 locations by the time Marcus was in college, 23 by the time he got married. I'd learned early that people underestimate you when you're humble. When you drive an old truck and run a small-town shop, they tell you things. They make deals they wouldn't make with someone in a Lexus. I built an empire one modest handshake at a time. I'd planned to tell Marcus eventually. Maybe when he had kids, maybe when he was mature enough to understand that success isn't about appearances. But after that wedding, after being erased from his life story, I decided to wait, to see what kind of man he'd become. I didn't have to wait long. It was a Tuesday morning in October, 14 months after the wedding. I was cleaning the press when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Uncle Frank? Marcus's voice was different, strained, raw. Marcus. I set down the rag, my heart suddenly pounding. Are you okay? Can we meet? Please? Of course. When? Where? Are you still in Cedar Falls? I'm at the shop. A pause. Could I come there? To your shop? He'd never voluntarily visited. Not once in 15 years. Doors always open. He showed up 3 hours later. The Mercedes was gone. He was driving a Honda Accord, maybe 4 years old. Still nice, but not Marcus nice. His suit was expensive but rumpled, like he'd been sleeping in it. Dark circles under his eyes. He'd lost weight. Come in. I locked the shop door behind him, flipped the sign to closed. He stood there in the middle of the shop, looking around like he'd never seen it before. Maybe he hadn't, not really. To him, it had always been a symbol of everything he wanted to escape. Coffee? I asked. He nodded. I poured 2 cups from the pot I kept in the back office. My hands were steady. His weren't. We sat in the small break room, surrounded by filing cabinets and stacks of paper samples. Marcus stared into his coffee for a long time. I lost everything, he finally said. I waited. The firm, we made some bad investments. Put everything into a tech startup that turned out to be running a pyramid scheme. The SEC came in. Criminal charges. I wasn't involved in the fraud, but I was the face of the firm. Our clients pulled out, partners resigned, lawsuits, the legal fees alone. He rubbed his face with both hands. Vanessa left. Took half of what was left, which wasn't much. Her father called me a disgrace, said I'd humiliated their family. All those people at the wedding, all those connections I was so proud of, they won't return my calls now. I'm sorry, Marcus. I had to sell the condo, the car. I'm living in a studio apartment in Naperville. I'm broke, Uncle Frank. Completely broke, and I'm drowning in debt. The bankruptcy lawyer says I need at least $40,000 just to start dealing with the creditors. He looked up at me then, and I saw the 8-year-old boy again. Scared, lost, alone. I shouldn't have come here. I know I don't deserve to ask you for anything after how I treated you, after what I said. But you're the only family I have left, and I didn't know where else to go. The shop was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Somewhere outside, a car drove past. How much do you have right now? I asked. To your name? About $800. I set down my coffee. You know what's funny? When you told me this place smelled like ink and paper, like that was something to be ashamed of, this shop, Marcus, this little shop you couldn't wait to distance yourself from, it taught me everything I know about business, about hard work, about treating people with respect, regardless of what they drive or where they live. I know. I was wrong. I was so wrong about everything. I'm not finished. My voice was gentle but firm. You wanted to know what success looks like. You thought it was the Drake Hotel and the Mercedes and the clients in $1,000 suits. But success, real success, is measured in character, in integrity, in how you treat people when you don't need anything from them. Marcus's face crumpled. I failed. I know I failed. At everything that matters. You haven't failed yet. But you're at a crossroads. I stood up, walked to the office, pulled out a folder I'd prepared years ago, just in case. Inside was a check and some papers. I handed him the check. $40,000. He stared at it, tears streaming down his face. Uncle Frank, I can't. Yes, you can. But there are conditions. He looked up, wiping his eyes. This money clears your immediate debts, gives you breathing room, but it's not a handout, Marcus. It's an investment in the man you can become. Here's what happens next. You move back to Cedar Falls. There's an apartment above the hardware store, already paid for 6 months. You work here, in this shop, minimum wage. You'll learn every aspect of this business from the ground up. 40 hours a week, no shortcuts. Okay. Yes, anything. I'm not done. After 6 months, if you've shown up every day, worked hard, treated every customer with respect, learned the value of this little print shop, then we'll talk about your future. Real talk. About what you want to do, where you want to go, and I'll help you get there. Why? His voice broke. After everything I said, everything I did, why would you help me? I sat back down across from him. Because 14 months ago, you erased me from your life story. You stood in front of 300 people and thanked everyone but the man who raised you. And you know what I did that night? I went home and I cried. First time I'd cried since your father's funeral. Marcus closed his eyes, fresh tears falling. But I also made a decision. I decided that if you ever came back, if you ever realized that success isn't about impressing people you don't even like, I'd be here. Because that's what family does. We don't give up on each other, even when we should. I don't deserve this. No, you don't. But love isn't about deserving. It's about showing up anyway. He took the check with shaking hands. When do I start? Tomorrow, 7 a.m. Wear something you don't mind getting ink on. Marcus moved to Cedar Falls that week. The first Monday, he showed up at 6:45, wearing jeans and an old Northwestern sweatshirt. I taught him how to operate the offset press, how to mix inks, how to talk to customers about paper weight and finish. He made mistakes, spilled ink, ruined orders, had to restart from scratch. He never complained. He learned to open the shop, to balance the register, to sweet-talk the suppliers. He helped old Mrs. Peterson design invitations for her granddaughter's baby shower, spent 2 hours going through font options with her. He stayed late to finish a rush order for the Baptist church. He got ink under his fingernails and couldn't get it out. I watched him transform. 2 months in, I took him to Kansas City for a printing industry conference. On the drive there, in my old F-150, he said, I always thought this truck was embarrassing. Now I think it's the most honest vehicle I've ever ridden in. It's a truck, Marcus. It hauls things. That's all it needs to do. That's kind of beautiful, actually. At the conference, I introduced him to people, print shop owners, suppliers, industry veterans. They treated him like an equal, because in their world, he was. He was learning the trade, paying his dues. That mattered more than any fancy title. On the drive back, he was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, Uncle Frank, can I ask you something? How do you make this work? The shop seems busy, but these margins are so thin. How do you afford everything? The apartment for me, this trip, everything? I'd been waiting for this question. Because this isn't my only shop, Marcus. He turned to look at me. What do you mean? I mean, I own 27 printing facilities across 9 states. This one in Cedar Falls is the original, the one I'll never sell. But the others? They're running operations. Digital printing, commercial printing, specialty work. Last year, we did $43 million in revenue. The truck swerved slightly as his jaw dropped. What? I built it slowly, quietly, over 30 years. I never changed my lifestyle because I didn't need to. This truck works. My house is paid off. I have everything I need. But why didn't you tell me? When I was being such an ass about your little print shop, why didn't you just tell me? Would it have mattered? Would you have respected me more if you'd known I was rich? Would you have introduced me to your colleagues? Invited me to sit at the family table at your wedding? He was crying again. I'm so sorry. God, Uncle Frank, I'm so sorry. I know you are. And here's the thing, Marcus, I've been fielding offers for years, companies wanting to buy me out. I always said no because I didn't know what I'd do with myself. But last month, a firm out of Boston made an offer I couldn't refuse, $94 million. I let that sink in. I accepted it last week. The papers are being finalized now. I keep the Cedar Falls shop because this is home. Everything else, they take over. $94 million. He said it like he couldn't believe it. You're rich. You've been rich this whole time. I've been comfortable. There's a difference. Money doesn't make you rich, Marcus. Having enough makes you comfortable. Being at peace with who you are makes you rich. We drove in silence for another hour. The Missouri countryside rolled past, all autumn colors and open sky. Your 6 months are almost up, I said, as we pulled into Cedar Falls. We should talk about what comes next. I want to stay, he said immediately. Here, at the shop, if you'll have me. You want to run a small-town print shop after Chicago? After everything? I want to learn from the man who built an empire one handshake at a time. I want to understand what I missed all those years. I want to. He paused, swallowed hard. I want to make you proud. I pulled the truck into the shop's parking lot, turned off the engine. Marcus, I've been proud of you since the day you spelled your name for the first time. When you got accepted to Northwestern. When you started your firm. Even when you were being an arrogant ass, I was proud. Because you were trying. You were building something. I built it on sand. No. You built it on the wrong foundation. But you're young. You have time to rebuild on something solid. Will you teach me? Really teach me? That's what I've been doing for 6 months. He smiled then. The first real smile I'd seen since he was a kid. I'm a slow learner. Good thing I'm patient. We got out of the truck. The shop looked small and ordinary in the evening light. Just a little storefront on Main Street in a town most people had never heard of. But inside was 30 years of work, of building relationships, of showing up every day with ink under your fingernails and pride in your craft. You know what I realized? Marcus said, pulling open the door. That smell, the ink and paper, it's not embarrassing. It's the smell of honest work, of building something that matters. Took you long enough? Yeah, well, I had a good teacher. I just wasn't paying attention. We went inside. I showed him the paperwork for the sale, explained what it meant for the Cedar Falls shop, for his future. I told him about my plans to set up a foundation, to help other kids who'd lost their parents like he had, to teach them trades, to give them opportunities. I want to help with that, he said. The foundation. I want to be involved. That's a long-term commitment, Marcus. I know. I'm not going anywhere. This is home now. 3 months later, Marcus moved out of the apartment above the hardware store, not to Chicago, to a small house, 3 streets over from mine, 2 bedrooms, front porch that needed painting. He bought an F-150, year 2005, rust around the wheel wells. Figured if it's good enough for you, he said, grinning. He runs the Cedar Falls shop now. I come in a few days a week, help with the foundation work, consult on big decisions. But mostly, I watch him do what I did 30 years ago, build relationships, serve the community, take pride in the work. Last month, he called me on a Saturday morning. Uncle Frank, I need you to come to the shop, right now. I hurried over, worried something had gone wrong. But when I got there, he was standing outside with a ladder and a paintbrush. Help me with something? He asked. Together, we painted a new sign above the door. The old one had just said Cedar Falls Print and Copy. The new one read, Cedar Falls Print and Copy, Est, 1987. Family owned and operated. Family owned, I said. I like that. Yeah, well, I figured it was time I acknowledged the family that owns it. We stood there on the sidewalk, looking at the sign. My nephew, my son in all the ways that mattered, covered in paint and smiling. You know what's funny? He said. I thought success was a corner office in Chicago. Turns out, it's a printing shop in Cedar Falls, Missouri, and the privilege of working next to the man who raised me. That's not funny, I said. That's just the truth. Yeah, took me long enough to see it. Later that day, a young couple came in needing wedding invitations. Marcus spent an hour with them, patient and attentive, helping them choose paper and fonts and colors. As they left, happy and excited, he turned to me. This is what you meant, isn't it? About success being measured in character, in how you treat people. You're learning, finally. He grinned. Better late than never, right? Better late than never. That evening, as I locked up the shop, I thought about the last few years, about the pain of being erased from Marcus's life, about the joy of watching him find his way back, about the man he'd become, not despite his failures, but because of them. My phone rang. Marcus, forgot to tell you Vanessa called today. Your ex-wife? Yeah. She heard about the business sale, wanted to connect, asked if we could meet for coffee in Chicago. What did you say? I said I was busy, and I am. Mrs. Peterson's coming by tomorrow to see proofs for her Christmas cards, and I promised Jeremy I'd help him design flyers for his garage sale fundraiser. I smiled. Those sound like good plans. Yeah, they do. I'll see you Monday morning, 7 a.m. I'll be there at 6:45. He hung up. I stood there in the parking lot, keys in hand, looking at our sign. Family owned and operated. Some people spend their whole lives chasing success, never realizing it's right in front of them. In the work they do, in the people they serve, in the family they've built, one day, one choice, one act of love at a time. Success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in character, in showing up, in ink under your fingernails and a modest house on Maple Street, in second chances given and lessons learned, in a nephew who finally understood what his uncle had been trying to teach him all along, that you don't need to be impressive to be valuable. You just need to be honest, hardworking, and willing to show up every single day with your whole heart. The rest takes care of itself.